Taemin gripped the controls of his ship as red warning lights flashed across the cockpit. The slave transport ahead was bigger than his vessel, but he had seen enough. Through the scanner, he could see the heat signatures of dozens of prisoners, locked in metal cages. "Yunji, bring us around to their blind spot," he said to his pilot. "So Young, are the weapons ready?" "All systems green," So Young replied from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the medical and technical controls. "But Taemin, that ship has heavy shields." "Not for long," said Hyunwoo, the youngest, member of their crew. He had been working on something special for weeks. "I modified our pulse cannons. They should cut through their shields like paper." Taemin nodded. He had rescued many people from slavers before, but something felt different about this one. Maybe it was the way the transport ship tried to hide when they first spotted it, or maybe it was just his gut telling him that someone important was trapped inside. The defiant dawn moved closer to the slave ship. Taemin could see the fear in the slaver crew through the view screen. Good. They should be afraid. "Fire!" Taemin shouted. Blue energy beams shot from their ship and hit the transport's shields. The modified weapons worked perfectly. The shields collapsed after just 3 hits. The slave ship tried to turn and run, but Yunji was faster. She spun their ship around and fired at the transport's engines. Smoke poured from the back of the slave ship. It stopped moving and sent a surrender signal. "Hyunwoo, get your tools. So Young, bring the medical kit." "We're going aboard," Taemin said. He grabbed his rifle and headed for the airlock. The inside of the slave transport smelled terrible. Taemin had boarded many slaver ships, but they always made him angry. Rows of cages filled with different alien species lined the walls. Some prisoners looked human, others were completely strange creatures he had never seen before. "Start opening the cages," he told his crew. "Get everyone free." So Young began treating injured prisoners while Hyunwoo worked on the electronic locks. Junji kept watch for any slaver crew who might still be hiding. Taemin walked deeper into the ship. At the very back, in a cage separated from all the others, he found her. The woman was clearly not human, but she looked similar enough. Her skin was pale blue and she had long silver hair. Strange markings covered her arms like tattoos. She wore clothes that looked expensive, even though they were torn and dirty. What caught Taemin's attention were her eyes. They were bright purple and showed no fear, only anger. She sat straight and proud, even locked in a cage. When she saw him, she spoke in a language he did not understand. "So Young," he called. "Bring the translator." So Young hurried over with a small device. She pointed it at the woman and pressed some buttons. After a moment, words came out in human language. "Are you another buyer?" the woman asked. Her voice was cold and proud. "I will not be sold like some animal." "Nobody's buying you," Taemin said as he shot the lock off her cage. "We're here to free you." The woman stared at him for a long moment. She seemed surprised by his answer. "You are rescuing us?" "That's what we do," Taemin said. He held out his hand to help her out of the cage. "Can you walk?" She ignored his hand and stood up on her own. Even though she was shorter than him, she carried herself like someone important. "I can walk fine." "Good. We need to get everyone off this ship fast. More slavers might show up." As they moved through the transport, freeing more prisoners, Taemin noticed the blue-skinned woman watching his crew carefully. She said nothing, but her purple eyes followed everything they did. When So Young helped an injured alien child, the woman's expression softened slightly. "Why do you do this?" she asked Taemin as they reached their ship. "Do what?" "Risk your lives for strangers. You could have been killed." Taemin shrugged. "Because it's right. Everyone deserves to be free." The woman looked at him like he had said something very strange. "Even if those strangers are not your own kind?" "Especially then," Taemin said. "They got all the prisoners aboard the Defiant Dawn. Most of them were scared and grateful." The blue-skinned woman remained quiet, but Taemin could feel her watching him and his crew. "Incoming ships," Yunji shouted from the pilot seat. 3 vessels, moving fast." "More slavers?" So Young asked. Taemin looked at the scanner. The ships were bigger and better armed than normal slaver vessels. "No, these look military." The blue-skinned woman suddenly grabbed his arm. "We must leave now. If they catch us, everyone will die." "Who are they?" Taemin asked. "Bad people looking for me," she said. "Please, your crew saved my life. Let me help save theirs." Taemin did not understand what made her so special, but the fear in her voice was real. "Yoonji, get us out of here. Full speed." "Where do we go?" Yoonji asked. The woman moved to the navigation controls. "There is an asteroid field nearby. Your ship is small enough to hide there." "You know how to read human star charts?" Hyunwoo asked, surprised. "I learn quickly," she said. The next hour was the longest of Taemin's life. 3 military ships chased them through space. Their weapons were powerful enough to destroy the Defiant Dawn with one hit. But Yoonji was a skilled pilot, and the blue-skinned woman seemed to know exactly where to go. They flew between huge floating rocks, making sharp turns that would crush a larger ship. Finally, they found a hidden spot deep in the asteroid field where the scanner could not find them. Everyone was quiet as they waited. After what felt like forever, the 3 ships gave up and flew away. "They're gone," Yoonji said with relief. Taemin turned to the blue-skinned woman. "Now you're going to tell us who you really are and why military ships are hunting you." She looked at each member of his crew, then back at him. "My name is Velara. And the answer to your question will change everything you think you know about this galaxy." So Young, Hyunwoo, and Yoonji all looked at Taemin. He could see they were thinking the same thing he was. They had not just rescued another slave. They had rescued someone very important and very dangerous. "Start talking," Taemin said. But Velara shook her head. "Not here. Not with all these people listening. Take me somewhere safe, and I will tell you everything." Taemin knew this was a mistake. Getting involved with someone who had military ships hunting her would only bring trouble. But something about Velara made him want to help her. Maybe it was the way she had tried to protect his crew, or maybe it was just his inability to turn away from someone who needed help. "So Young, help the other prisoners find transport to safe worlds," he said. "We need to talk to our new friend alone." The Haven station floated in empty space like a metal city. It was neutral ground where humans, aliens, and anyone else could trade without fear. Taemin had used this place many times to sell cargo and repair his ship. He watched Velara as they docked. She had been quiet during the 3-day trip here. Sometimes he caught her staring at his crew like she was trying to figure out some puzzle. "Stay close," he told her as they walked through the station's crowded corridors. "This place can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing." Velara looked around at the mix of species, the flashing neon signs, and the noise of 1,000 conversations. "It's so chaotic," she said. "That's what makes it beautiful," Hyunwoo said with a grin. "No rules, no kings, no emperors, just people trying to make a living." Something strange flashed in Velara's purple eyes when he said that, but she said nothing. They rented a private room in the station's hotel section. Taemin made sure it was soundproof and had no recording devices. Whatever Velara was going to tell them, he wanted to make sure no one else could hear it. "All right," he said once they were all seated. "Time for answers. Who are you really?" Velara was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and spoke in a voice that was suddenly different, stronger, more commanding. "I am Princess Velara, first daughter of Emperor Korthel, rightful heir to the Corvani Empire." The room went dead silent. Taemin felt his blood turn cold. The Corvani Empire controlled over 200 star systems. They had technology that made human ships look like toys. Their military could destroy entire planets. "You're joking," Yoonji said. "I do not joke about such things," Velara replied. "The Corvani princess is supposed to be dead," So Young said slowly. "The news reports said she died in an accident." "The news reports lied," Velara said. "My cousin Kesir and his supporters wanted me dead so he could claim the throne. They could not kill me openly, so they arranged for me to disappear. They sold me to slavers and told everyone I had died. Taemin's mind was racing. If this was true, they had not just rescued a prisoner. They had rescued the most important person in half the galaxy. Prove it, he said. Velara held out her hand. The strange markings on her arm began to glow with soft blue light. Only members of the royal family can do this. It is how we prove who we are. Hyunwoo leaned forward, fascinated. Incredible. The light is coming from inside your skin. Is genetic modification done when we are born? Velara explained. Each pattern is unique, like your human fingerprints. So you really are a princess, Yunji said. She did not sound happy about it. I am the heir to an empire that your people have been fighting for over 50 years, Velara said. I understand why that would concern you. Concern us? Taemin stood up. Your empire has been trying to wipe out humanity for decades. Your fleets attack our colonies, your armies invade our worlds. I know, Velara said quietly, and I am sorry for that. Sorry? Gunji laughed, but there was no humor in it. My brother died fighting your people. Sorry doesn't bring him back. Velara looked down at her hands. Many have died because of my family's choices. I cannot change the past, but perhaps I can change the future. What do you mean? So Young asked. If I reclaim my throne, I can end the war with humanity. I can make peace. And if we don't help you? Taemin asked. Then Kesser becomes emperor. He believes humans are nothing but animals that should be exterminated. Under his rule, your species will not survive another decade. The room was quiet again. Taemin could see his crew thinking about what she had said. It was a terrible choice. Help an alien princess reclaim her throne or watch humanity slowly die. How do we know you're telling the truth about wanting peace? Yunji asked. You saved my life, Velara said. You risked everything for a stranger, expecting nothing in return. No Corvani would do such a thing. We are taught that only family matters, that other species are inferior. But you showed me something different. What's that? Hyunwoo asked. Mercy. Compassion. The idea that all life has value. She looked at each of them. These are not Corvani concepts. They are human concepts. And they are better than what my people believe. Before anyone could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red and a voice came over the speakers. All residents to secure areas immediately. Imperial Corvani vessels have entered the system. This is not a drill. Taemin cursed. They found us. How is that possible? So Young asked. Velara stood up quickly. Kesser must have tracking devices throughout this sector. We have to leave now. Wait, Yunji said. How do we know this isn't a setup? How do we know you didn't call them yourself? Because if I wanted to betray you, I would have done it 3 days ago, Velara said. I need your help to reclaim my throne. Dead humans cannot help me. Through the room's small window, they could see ships approaching the station. They were sleek and deadly looking, with the royal symbol of the Corvani Empire painted on their hulls. There are too many, Hyunwoo said. At least 10 ships out there. More coming, Yunji added, checking her scanner. We can't fight that many. We don't fight, Taemin said. We run. They moved quickly through the station's corridors. Other people were running too, trying to get to their ships before the Imperial forces boarded the station. Taemin could hear weapon fire in the distance. This way, Velara said, leading them down a side corridor. There is a maintenance tunnel that connects to the docking bays. How do you know about that? So Young asked. I told you I learned quickly. I studied the station's layout while you were preparing our room. The maintenance tunnel was dark and narrow. They had to crawl on their hands and knees for several minutes. Behind them, they could hear Imperial soldiers searching the hotel section. They reached the docking bay where the Defiant Dawn was parked. Through the bay windows, they could see Imperial ships surrounding the station like metal sharks. There's our ship, Taemin said. But how do we get past their blockade? Leave that to me, Velara said. She walked to a communication panel and pressed some buttons. She spoke in the Corvani language, using a tone that sounded very official. After a moment, she turned back to them. I told them I was the Imperial agent with important prisoners to transport. They are giving us a few minutes to clear the docking bay. Will that work? Yunwu asked. For about 5 minutes, yes. After that, they will realize they have no agent on this station. They ran to their ship and prepared for launch as quickly as possible. Yunji fired up the engines while So Young powered the weapons. Yunwu worked on the navigation system. Where do we go now? Yunji asked as they flew away from the station. Deep space, Valara said. I know of places where we can hide while we plan our next move. What next move? Taemin asked. Half the Imperial Navy is looking for you. Then we will have to be smarter than they are, Valara said. You humans are good at that, are you not? Taemin looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were not backing down. That was what he loved about humans. When things got impossible, they got stubborn. All right, princess, he said. You want our help reclaiming your throne? Then you better have a good plan. Valara smiled for the first time, since he had met her. Oh, I do. But first we need allies, and I know exactly where to find them. The abandoned mining station floated in the darkness between two dead planets. Taemin had never seen a place that looked more hopeless, but Valara insisted this was where they would find help. Are you sure about this? Yunji asked as they approached the station. General Morthak was my combat instructor when I was young, Valara explained. He taught me honor and duty. When Kessir began his plot, Morthak spoke against him. He was stripped of his rank and exiled here. And you think he'll help us? So Young asked. He swore an oath to protect the rightful heir. If anyone will stand with me, it is him. The docking bay of the mining station was old and rusty. When they stepped out of their ship, Taemin could smell the stale air and see that the lights barely worked. This place had been abandoned for years, but they were not alone. A tall alien figure stepped out of the shadows. He looked like Valara, but older and much bigger. Scars covered his arms and face. His clothes were simple, but he carried himself like a soldier. Princess, he said, dropping to one knee. Rise, old friend, Valara said. There is no time for ceremony. Morthak stood and looked at the humans with curiosity. You travel with interesting companions, Your Highness. They saved my life. Without them, Kessir's plan would have worked. Humans, Morthak said thoughtfully. I have fought against your people many times. You are more clever than we gave you credit for. Is that a compliment? Taemin asked. From me, yes. The Corvani Empire has been trying to defeat humanity for 50 years. Yet you still fight. That takes courage. Valara stepped forward. Morthak, I need your help to reclaim the throne. The old general was quiet for a moment. The entire Imperial fleet is searching for you. Kessir has convinced the Senate that you are a traitor working with human spies. Half the military believes him. What about the other half? Hyunwoo asked. They wait to see who will win, Morthak said. But there are some who remember their oaths. I have been in contact with loyal officers throughout the Empire. They will follow the rightful heir if she proves she is strong enough to lead. How do we do that? Valara asked. First, we need evidence of Kessir's conspiracy. Without proof, you are just another rebel. Second, we need to reach the capital world alive. Kessir controls all the major space routes now. What kind of evidence? So Young asked. Communication records, financial transfers, orders given to the slavers who captured you. Morthak activated a holographic star map. There is a communications relay station in the Nexus system. All Imperial messages pass through there. If we can access their computers, we can prove. Kessir arranged everything, Valara finished. Taemin studied the map. That station is in the middle of Imperial space. Getting there will be like flying into a trap. The station has minimal defenses, Morthak said. It relies on its location for protection. No one would be foolish enough to attack it directly. No one except humans, Yunji said with a grin. 3 days later, they approached the Nexus system. Taemin's ship had been modified with technology Morthak brought from his exile. It would not make them invisible, but it might confuse enemy scanners long enough to reach the station. 2 patrol ships guarding the relay, Yunji reported. They look bored. Good, Velara said. Bored guards make mistakes. They waited until one patrol ship moved to the far side of its route. Then Hyunwoo activated the scanner jamming device. For exactly 3 minutes, the relay station's sensors would show nothing but empty space. The Defiant Dawn moved fast and quiet toward the station. They docked on the maintenance level where no one would expect visitors. Taimin, Velara, and So Young went aboard while Yunji and Hyunwoo stayed with the ship. Inside the station, everything was automated. Computer terminals lined the walls, processing billions of messages every hour. The place hummed with electronic noise. There, Velara pointed to a central computer. That one handles all high-priority Imperial communications. So Young connected her equipment to the computer while Velara used her royal access codes. I'm in, So Young said after a few minutes. Downloading everything from the past 6 months. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed and automated voices announced a security breach. They found us, Taemin said, grabbing his weapon. Almost done, So Young said, her fingers flying over the controls. Just need 30 more seconds. Imperial soldiers came running down the corridor toward them. Taemin fired his rifle, forcing them to take cover behind doorways, but more kept. Coming! So Young! He shouted. Got it! She pulled her equipment free from the computer. Let's go! They ran toward their ship as soldiers chased them. Velara used her knowledge of Imperial technology to lock blast doors behind them, slowing their pursuers. But the patrol ships outside had noticed something was wrong. Yunji, start the engines, Taemin yelled into his communicator as they reached the docking bay. Already done, came the reply, but we have company coming. They jumped aboard the Defiant Dawn just as Imperial ships began firing at the station. Yunji launched them into space at maximum speed. Where to now? She asked. The Serpent Nebula, Velara said. It will hide us from their scanners. The nebula was a huge cloud of gas and dust that stretched across several star systems. It was dangerous to fly through because the gas interfered with ship sensors and engines, but it also made them invisible to anyone hunting them. For 2 days they flew, deeper into the nebula. So Young worked on decoding the information they had stolen while Morthak contacted his allies throughout the Empire. I have good news and bad news, So Young announced on the second day. Bad news first, Taemin said. Kesser's conspiracy goes deeper than we thought. He has been planning this for over 2 years. The evidence shows he arranged attacks on human colonies to make the war worse, hoping it would make him look strong. That's horrible, Hyunwoo said. What's the good news? Velara asked. We have proof. Messages between Kesser and the slavers. Payment records. Orders to fake your death. Everything we need to expose him. Excellent, Morthak said. I have been speaking with Admiral Brendal of the 5th Fleet. She remembers when you were born, Princess. She will not stand with a usurper if she knows the truth. How do we get this information to her? Yunji asked. We meet her at the Corvanis system, but getting there means running through the Imperial blockade. Every ship in the Empire is looking for us now. Taimin looked at his crew. They had come so far, but the hardest part was still ahead. How many ships are we talking about? At least 50 war vessels between here and the capital, Morthak said, including battleships that could destroy us with one shot. Then we better be very smart about this, Taemin said. That night, as they planned their approach to the capital, System Velara found Taemin alone in the ship's small observation room. He was staring out at the swirling colors of the nebula. You are worried, she said. Of course I'm worried. We're about to fly into the biggest military fleet in the galaxy. That is not what troubles you, Velara said, sitting beside him. You are thinking about your friend. Taemin was quiet for a moment. During their escape from the relay station, So Young had been hit by enemy fire. She was alive, but badly injured. Her medical supplies were running low. She needs a real hospital, he said, not just field medicine. She will have the best medical care in the Empire once I reclaim my throne, Velara promised. If we make it that far. We will. Your people do not give up, even when the situation is hopeless. I have learned that about humans. Sometimes being stubborn isn't enough. No, Valara agreed. Sometimes it takes more than stubbornness. Sometimes it takes faith in each other. She stood to leave, then paused. Taemin, why did you really rescue me from that slave ship? I told you, because it was right. But you did not know who I was then. For all you knew, I was just another alien slave. Taemin thought about that. Maybe that's exactly why I had to help you. Valara smiled. Yes, that is very human of you. The next morning, they began their final approach to the Corvanis system. Ahead of them waited the largest military force ever assembled. Behind them was the safety of the nebula. Ready? Yunji asked. Ready, Taemin said. The defiant dawn flew out of the nebula and into imperial space, carrying with it the hopes of 2 species and the future of the galaxy. The prison moon of Kaladur looked like a metal ball covered in spikes. Every spike was a guard tower with weapons that could shoot down ships from orbit. This was where the Corvani Empire sent prisoners who were never meant to see freedom again. So Young is in there somewhere, Taemin said, staring at the prison through the ship's viewscreen. The most secure facility in the Empire, Morthak said grimly. I helped design it years ago. There is no way to break someone out of there. Then it's good we're not breaking someone out, Valara said. We're walking in the front door. 2 days earlier, they had received a message that changed everything. Imperial forces had captured So Young during a supply run. They were holding her in the prison moon, using her as bait to draw out Taemin's crew. But Valara had a different plan. The prison has a new commander, she explained. Colonel Jessara owes her position to my father. She might listen to reason if we approach her correctly. What if she doesn't? Yenwu asked. Then we fight our way out, Taemin said simply. The shuttle that took them to the prison was small and uncomfortable. Valara wore the simple clothes of a political prisoner, while Taemin and his crew were disguised as Imperial guards. It was a risky plan, but it was their only chance. The prison's docking bay was full of armed soldiers. The moment they stepped off the shuttle, weapons were pointed at them from every direction. Princess Valara, said a woman's voice. Colonel Jessara walked toward them, flanked by guards. She was tall and thin with the pale skin and silver eyes of Corvani nobility. You look different than your pictures. Captivity changes a person, Valara replied calmly. Indeed. I am curious why you would come here voluntarily. Because I want to see what my empire has become while I was gone. Colonel Jessara gestured for them to follow her. They walked through corridors lined with security cameras and force field generators. The prison was built like a maze designed to confuse anyone who tried to escape. Your cousin has been very busy, Jessara said as they walked. New laws, new punishments, new enemies to crush. What kind of new laws? Valara asked. Laws against helping inferior species. Laws requiring the elimination of genetic defectives. Laws making it legal to exterminate entire populations if they resist imperial rule. Taemin felt sick. These were not just military policies. They were talking about genocide. They reached a large chamber with a window that looked out over the prison's main level. Below them, thousands of prisoners moved in organized lines. But something was wrong with the picture. Where are all the aliens? Hyunwoo asked. There are no alien prisoners here anymore, Jessara said quietly. What happened to them? Valara demanded. Your cousin's new efficiency programs. Why waste resources feeding inferior species when they can be processed more quickly? The meaning hit them all at the same time. The alien prisoners had been killed. All of them? Valara whispered. Not just here. On 12 prison worlds. Over 3 million beings. Kesser called it cleaning the galaxy. Valara grabbed the window ledge to steady herself. Her face had turned completely white. This is not the empire I grew up in. No, Your Highness. It is the empire your cousin is building. They continued deeper into the prison. Jessara showed them more things that made Taemin's stomach turn. Laboratories where imperial scientists experimented on captured humans. Training centers where soldiers learned to see other species as animals. Libraries where books about mercy and compassion had been burned. Why are you showing us this? Taemin asked. Because someone needs to know the truth, Jessara said. I Have served the Empire for 30 years. I believed we were bringing order to the galaxy. Now I see we are bringing only death. Then help us stop it, Valara said. How? Even if you reclaim the throne, the system is too corrupt. The military, the Senate, the bureaucrats, they all profit from Kesser's policies now. Systems can be changed, Valara said. But first, we need to rescue my friend. Jessara led them to the medical wing where So Young was being held. The human woman was alive but weak from her injuries and days of interrogation. Tae-min, So Young said when she saw them. What are you doing here? Rescuing you, obviously, he said, helping her stand. This is a trap, isn't it? Probably, Yoonji said. But when has that ever stopped us? As they prepared to leave, Jessara handed Valara a data pad. Everything is on there. Records of the mass executions, the extermination plans, the genetic experiments, all signed by your cousin. This proves he's a monster, Valara said, looking at the files. But will it be enough to turn the military against him? That depends on what you plan to do if you win, Jessara said. Will you just be a kinder emperor, or will you change everything? Valara looked at Tae-min and his crew. These humans had risked everything to help strangers. They treated her as an equal, not as royalty. They believed all life had value. Everything, she said finally. I will change everything. They made it back to their ship without any trouble. Jessara had arranged for them to leave quietly. But as they flew away from the prison moon, Valara was very quiet. What's wrong? So Young asked. She was feeling better after receiving proper medical treatment. I spent my whole life believing the Empire was good, Valara said. Yes, we conquered other species, but I thought we were bringing them civilization, order, peace. And now? Hyunwoo asked. Now I see we were just bringing them death. She looked at the datapad Jessara had given her. 3 million beings dead. Entire species marked for extermination. Experiments that would make your worst scientists sick. It's not your fault, Tae-min said, isn't it? I am the princess. I should have known. I should have done something. You were a prisoner, Morthak reminded her. And before that you were kept away from the ugly parts of ruling. That's the problem, Valara said. Royal children are protected from reality. We live in palaces while our soldiers commit atrocities in our name. We make laws about species we have never met, worlds we have never visited. So what will you do differently? Yoonji asked. Valara was quiet for a long moment. Your people have something called democracy, don't you? Where everyone gets to vote on their leaders? That's right, Tae-min said. And these leaders serve the people, not the other way around. When it works properly, yes. Then that is what the Empire needs. Not an emperor or empress who rules by birthright, but leaders chosen by all the species we govern. The Corvani. Nobility will never accept that, Morthak warned. Then they will have to be convinced, Valara said, or replaced. Over the next few days, as they traveled toward their final confrontation with Kessir, Valara spent hours talking with the humans about their system of government. She asked questions about voting, about laws that protected minorities, about how to make sure power did not corrupt leaders. In your system, how long can someone be a leader? She asked. Depends on the job, So Young explained. But most positions have term limits. No one stays in power forever, even if they are doing a good job. Even then, power corrupts people over time. Fresh leadership keeps the system healthy. Your people are wiser than I thought, Valara said. We had to learn the hard way, Tae-min said. We fought wars against kings and dictators. Sometimes the only way to learn about freedom is to fight for it. Then perhaps it is time for the galaxy to learn those same lessons. As they approached the Corvani system, they could see hundreds of Imperial ships waiting for them. The final battle was about to begin, but Valara was no longer the same person who had been rescued from that slave ship. The sheltered princess was gone. In her place was someone who understood that true leadership meant serving others, not ruling them. Are you ready for this? Tae-min asked. I am ready to tear down an empire and build something better in its place, Valara said. Looking at her now, Tae-min believed she could actually do it. and that terrified and inspired him at the same time. The capital world of Corvanus Prime looked like a jewel floating in space. Massive cities covered every continent, connected by bridges that stretched across entire oceans. At the planet's center stood the Imperial Palace, a golden tower that reached toward the stars. But today, the jewel was surrounded by the largest space battle in galactic history. 50 Imperial ships holding position around the planet, Yunji reported from the pilot's seat. Another 100 spread throughout the system. And on our side? Taemin asked. Admiral Brendal brought the Fifth Fleet, Morthak said. 30 ships that declared for Princess Velara when they saw the evidence of Kessir's crimes. So we're outnumbered 3-1, Hyunwoo said. I've faced worse odds, Taemin said, though he was not sure if that was actually true. The battle had been raging for 6 hours. Ships exploded like fireworks across the darkness of space. The Fifth Fleet was fighting bravely, but they were slowly losing. Princess, Admiral Brendal's voice came over the communication system. We cannot hold much longer, if you are going. To reach the planet, it must be now. Velara looked at Taemin and his crew. They had come so far together. Now they were about to attempt the impossible, landing on a heavily defended world and challenging an emperor for his throne. The old ways say I must face Kessir in single combat, Velara said. If I win, his supporters must accept my right to rule. If I lose, you won't lose, So-young said firmly. How can you be sure? Because you're fighting for something bigger than just a throne, Taemin said. You're fighting for the future. The defiant Dawn dove toward the planet's surface, dodging weapons fire from orbital defense stations. Yunji flew the ship like it was part of her own body, spinning and turning through the deadly maze of energy beams and missiles. They landed in the palace's outer courtyard, just as rebel forces breached the main gates. The fighting was intense. Corvani soldiers loyal to Kessir battled against troops who had switched sides after learning the truth about the mass murders. This way, Morthak said, leading them through corridors he knew from his years of service. The throne room is at the center of the palace. They fought their way through guard after guard, but these were not just Corvani defending the palace. Taemin saw soldiers from a dozen different species, all fighting to overthrow the empire that had oppressed them. Look at that, Hyunwoo said, pointing to a group of rebels. Humans fighting alongside aliens they've never met before. Word of your princess spread quickly, So-young said. Everyone wants to see Kessir fall. The throne room doors were 20 feet tall and made of solid gold. Ancient symbols covered their surface, telling the story of Corvani conquests across the galaxy. Today, those doors would witness either the Empire's salvation or its final destruction. Inside, Emperor Kessir waited. He looked like Velara, but where she had grown compassionate, he had become cruel. His purple eyes were cold and empty. Golden armor covered his body, and a crown of rare crystals sat on his head. Cousin, he said when they entered. You look different. Captivity has made you weak. I am stronger than I have ever been, Velara replied. Strong? You travel with humans like they are your equals. You have forgotten what it means to be Corvani. No. I have learned what it means to be more than Corvani. Kessir laughed. More? We are the superior species in this galaxy. We were meant to rule over the others, says who? Taemin stepped forward. Your people couldn't even defeat humanity, and we're just one species out of thousands. Silence! Kessir raised his hand and energy crackled around his fingers. I will not be lectured by an animal. That's exactly your problem, Velara said. You see other species as animals, but they are people, just like us. They have families, dreams, hopes for the future. Weakness, Kessir spat. Under my rule, the galaxy will know order. The strong will command and the weak will obey or die. Under your rule, the galaxy will know only death, Velara said. She pulled out the datapad Jessara had given her. 3 million beings murdered in your prison camps. Entire species marked for extermination. This is not strength. This is madness. It is necessity, Kessir shouted. The galaxy is overpopulated with inferior life forms. I am simply removing the excess. By whose authority? Velara demanded. By right of might. I am the Emperor. You are a usurper and a murderer, Velara said. And by the ancient laws, I challenge your right to the throne. The throne room fell silent. Around them, soldiers from both sides lowered their weapons. Single combat challenges were sacred in Corvani culture. No one could interfere. Very well, Kessir said, drawing a curved sword from his belt. I will kill you myself, as I should have done years ago. Velara drew her own weapon, but as the two cousins faced each other, something unexpected happened. Wait, she said, lowering her sword. What are you doing? Morthak whispered. I will not fight you, Kessir. What? Kessir looked confused. You issued the challenge. Yes. But fighting you would make me no different from you. Violence has ruled this empire for too long. Then you forfeit. Kessir raised his sword. I remain emperor. No. Velara said calmly. I reject the right to rule by combat. I reject the right to rule by birth. I reject the entire system that made you emperor. She turned to address everyone in the throne room, soldiers, nobles, servants, and rebels. For 1,000 years our people have ruled this galaxy through fear and violence. We have conquered species, enslaved populations, and destroyed anyone who opposed us. We called it bringing order, but all we brought was suffering. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. Today that ends. I will not be your empress. Instead, I call for the creation of a galactic council where every species has an equal voice, where leaders are chosen by those they serve, not by the accident of their birth. The throne room erupted in shouts and arguments. Some Corvani nobles looked horrified at the idea of giving up their power, but others, especially the younger ones, seemed intrigued. You cannot do this, Kessir screamed. I am the rightful emperor. Emperor of what? Taemin stepped forward. Half your military has joined the rebellion. Your prison commanders have released their prisoners. Your subject worlds are declaring independence. Your empire is already falling apart. Kessir looked around wildly. Through the throne room's windows they could see the space battle still raging, but now it was clear that the rebel forces were winning. More Imperial ships were switching sides every minute. This is impossible, Kessir whispered. This is inevitable, Velara said gently. Empires built on oppression always fall eventually. The only question is whether they fall violently or peacefully. I will not surrender my throne. Then you will lose it anyway. Admiral Brendal's voice came from the doorway. She entered with a squad of soldiers. The Imperial Senate has voted. You are removed from power for crimes against sentient beings. Kessir's face twisted with rage. He raised his sword to strike Velara down, but Taemin was faster. The human tackled the former emperor, sending them both crashing to the floor. It's over, Taemin said, pinning Kessir down. Over the next few days, Velara worked to establish the new Galactic Council. Representatives from hundreds of species arrived on Corvanus Prime to help write a constitution that would guarantee rights for all beings. Taemin found her late one evening, sitting alone in the palace gardens. Tired of being a revolutionary? He asked, sitting beside her. Exhausted, she admitted. Starting a new government is harder than overthrowing an old one. What happens next? Elections. The council will choose its first president next month. Then we begin the long work of undoing centuries of oppression. Will you run for president? Velara shook her head. I have done enough ruling for one lifetime. I think I would rather serve in a smaller role, perhaps as an ambassador. Ambassador to where? She smiled. To Earth. I have learned much from humans about freedom and democracy. I would like to learn more. Taemin grinned. I think Earth would like that. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there on hundreds of worlds, beings were celebrating their newfound freedom. Do you think it will work? Velara asked. This council we are building? Maybe. Maybe not. but it's better than what came before. And if it fails, then we'll try something else. That's what humans do. We keep trying until we get it right. Velara nodded. Yes, I am beginning to understand that about your people. A few weeks later, the Defiant Dawn prepared to leave Corvinus Prime. The crew had been offered medals, money, and positions in the new government, but they chose to return to their life among the stars. You could stay, Velara said as she said goodbye to them at the spaceport. Thanks, but no, Taemin replied. Governments aren't really our thing. We prefer helping people one at a time. There are still slavers out there who need stopping, Yunji added. And pirates, Yunwoo said. And tyrants on backwater worlds, So Young finished. Velara hugged each of them. Thank you. For saving my life, for opening my eyes, for showing me what it means to be free. Just remember what we taught you, Taemin said. Power belongs to the people, not the other way around. I will never forget. As the Defiant Dawn flew away from the capital world, Taemin looked back one last time at the planet where they had changed galactic history. So, what's next? Yunji asked. I got a message about some trouble in the outer.